Welcome back. After creating your account, now let's start working on our first project. So just type Kobo toolbox, and for this one don't add .org, then press enter and click where it says login. Then fill in the details like username and the password. Once you have done, click on login. So this is the landing page, and on this I'm just going to explain on this icon. This icon is your user account, and as you can see, it starts with the initial or the first letter of your name. So once you click there, you are going to see this. Then click on account settings. The first thing is the profile. You are going to see all the details that you have used to sign in, and here you can change. We also have security, which allows you to change the password as well as the email address for your account. So let's go back. Now, to add a project, you have to click on new, and you have these options. So these options, the first option is build from scratch. Here you are going to build a form from the very first step. And if you have typed the questions using Microsoft Excel, you are going to upload the file here. And sometimes after building some projects and saving those projects and as a template, you can choose to click here and select that particular project and edit it. You can also choose to import from XLS form via URL. But for this, we're just going to click where it says build from scratch. And here we're going to type the project name, for example, my first survey. And the next is project description, which is optional. So you can describe what is this project all about, or just choose to leave the way it is. The next is the sector. So I'm just going to use the sector which I've used to create this account. And next we have the country. So I'm going to choose my country of residence. And if you're going to share this form with other countries, you can also add those countries here. Once you have done that, just click on create project. So you are going to see a page like this one. But before we start adding the questions, let me just explain a bit about the features that we're seeing here. So this is the first icon which we see, and on this we only have two icons which are commonly used ones. The first icon is this one, which is used for previewing the form which you are working on. And you have this one, which is for grouping the questions within a form. So if you want to add questions from library, for example, you have created the questions and you have added those questions to the library. In the next project, you can just choose to take those questions and use in that particular project just by selecting the questions. And currently, you can see that we don't have any question. And the next tab is layout and settings. On the form style, by default is single page. But because we don't have questions here, we cannot change this view. And the next we have metadata. On this metadata that we see here, they don't appear among the questions on the form, but they only appear when viewing the submitted forms. So if you want to collect the starting time of the particular survey, you have to check this start time, and end time you can also choose this one. So you are going to say at what time did the enumerator started collecting the data. And on today, this is for the date, and you have other details or options like these ones. So those are just option things that you can choose to add in your form. Okay, let's add a question. To add a question, you have to click the plus sign here and type the question. So I'm just going to type full name. Once you have done, click on add question. And you can see that we have different question options, which we have already discussed in our previous lessons. For example, select one. This is a multiple choice question, but only one answer can be selected. And for select many, this is also a multiple choice question, but you can choose more options. For text, this one is free text response, and we have number for taking whole numbers. So we're going to explore more of these questions in our next lessons. So for this one, because you want to correct the full name, I'm just going to click where it says text. So once you have done that, you are going to see that you have these things. We have icons. The first icon on this left side, that one shows the type of the question which you have used in that particular question. And you have these icons on settings. If you click here, you are going to see this. You have data column name. This is the unique identifier of each and every question in your form. So you can choose to change this, because when you are making references for this one, you have to make sure that it's correct and it's also case sensitive. So if I have typed the full name like this one, if I want to make some references, I have to use the way it is there, not just by using something like this. It's not going to work. So it's a unique identifier. And down here, you are going to see that you have response options, whether it's going to be mandatory or not. So if I click on yes, it means that that question cannot be skipped, and it's going to have a star, as you can see here, this one. But if I remove mandatory option, I click on no, that star is no longer going to be shown. And down here for these ones, they are for HXL, of which we are not going to talk about that. And we also have skip logic, validation criteria, which we are going to do in our next lessons. So once you have done this, you just have to click on X. If you want to delete a question, you have to click on this. To copy the question, you have to click on this. So here we have a question hint. Question hint provide further instructions to each and every questions the numerator must follow when filling in the data. For example, full name. We have just written full name. Someone can choose to start with the first name, while someone can choose to start with the last name. So to avoid that, we can add an instruction here. For example, we can put first name first. This means that the numerator is going to say this, and he or she will say, oh, I should start with the first name. So once you are done, or during the process while you are adding the questions, you have to save your project just by clicking on the save button. And you can choose to preview now. As you can see that it's activated. When you are previewing the form, if the form has an error in terms of references or calculations, Kobo toolbox will not allow you, and it's going to have a note with the error which is preventing you from viewing that particular form. So as you can see, this is the form which we have created so far, and we have this question, the first question, and we have the question hint which says first name first. So for this one, this question is not mandatory. What if I have not filled in the data and I choose to validate? So you can see that the form is valid. We have validated that. And the only risk for this one is like a numerator can easily skip those questions. So you are going to have a lot of missing data. So to avoid that, you have to make sure that all important questions, they are mandatory. So we can just choose to put this mandatory just by clicking on yes, then close this. Now let's review this. So as you can see, now we have a star here. So what if I choose to validate without filling in? So I click this, you can see that the form contains errors, so we cannot validate that. And here it says this field is required. So it's not going to allow the numerator to move to the next question. That's all about this tutorial. See you in the next lesson in which we are going to add some more questions.